John Miller had lived a quiet, unremarkable life in the small town of Willow Creek. For 18 years, he worked as a mechanic, fixing cars and chatting with customers about the weather or local gossip. His days were predictable, filled with the hum of engines and the smell of motor oil. At home, he raised two sons, Sam and Jake, and kept alive the memory of his late wife, Sarah, whose photograph still smiled warmly from the mantelpiece. Life wasn't perfect, but it was simple. Or so he thought. One rainy evening, everything changed. The sky outside was dark, streaked with lightning, and the sound of raindrops tapping against the windows created an eerie rhythm. John sat alone, in the living room, sipping coffee while flipping through channels on the old television set. Sam and Jake were upstairs, probably playing video games or arguing over something trivial like teenagers often do. It was just another ordinary night. Or, so it seemed. A sudden knock at the door startled him. Frowning, John glanced at the clock. Who could be visiting at this hour? He set down his mug and walked to the entrance, opening the door cautiously. Standing there was a man dressed in a sleek black suit, holding an umbrella that dripped water. Onto the porch. His face was stern, his eyes sharp behind thin-rimmed glasses. Something about him felt off. "Mr. John Miller?" the man asked, his voice calm yet authoritative. "Yes," John replied hesitantly. "Can I help you?" The stranger nodded and pulled out a badge clipped to his belt. "Agent Carter," he said, introducing himself. "I'm with a federal agency. May I come in? We need to talk." John's heart sank. Federal agents didn't show up at people's doors unless something serious had happened. Still, curiosity got the better of him. He stepped aside, allowing Agent Carter to enter. The man shook off his umbrella before stepping inside, leaving wet footprints on the carpet. Once seated in the living room, Carter wasted no time getting to the point. "Mr. Miller," he began, placing a thick folder on the coffee table between them. "Your family is not what you think they are." John stared at him, confused. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" Carter opened the folder and slid several documents and photographs toward John. The images showed Sam and Jake, his boys, at various stages of their lives. There was a picture of Sam playing soccer at school, another of Jake laughing at a birthday party. But there was something strange about the photos. Upon closer inspection, John noticed faint symbols glowing on their skin. Symbols he'd never seen before. They appeared only in certain shots, captured during moments of intense emotion or danger. "This can't be real," John muttered, shaking his head. "These are fake, right? Some kind of trick?" "I assure you, Mr. Miller, these are authentic," Carter replied evenly. "Your sons possess unique traits, abilities far beyond those of ordinary humans. And the reason for that lies in their origins." John's blood ran cold. "Origins? What are you saying?" Carter leaned forward, his expression grave. "They're not entirely human. Not fully, anyway." For a moment, John couldn't breathe. The words hit him like a punch to the gut. "That's impossible," he stammered. "I've raised them since they were babies. Their mother, Sarah, she was human." "Was she?" Carter countered softly. "Have you ever wondered why your wife worked at such a high-security facility? Why she suddenly left her job shortly before meeting you? Or why your sons have always been exceptional?" Memories flooded back to John. Now that he thought about it, there had been oddities. Sarah rarely spoke about her work, brushing off questions with vague answers. When she became pregnant with Sam, doctors marveled at how healthy and advanced the fetus appeared during ultrasounds. Both boys healed unnaturally fast when injured. One time, Jake broke his arm falling off a bike only for it to mend completely within days. They excelled in school effortlessly, solving complex problems that baffled teachers. And then there were the times when they seemed to know what the other was thinking without speaking. John rubbed his temples, trying to process the information. If what you're saying is true, then who or what are they? "That's classified," Carter admitted. "But let's just say your sons are part of a larger experiment, one involving alien DNA. Your wife, Mrs. Miller, played a crucial role in its development. Alien DNA. The phrase sounded absurd, almost laughable. Yet, looking at the evidence, in front of him, John couldn't deny the truth staring back at him. His mind raced with questions. Why had Sarah kept this secret? Did she even know the full extent of what she was involved in? And most importantly, what did this mean for Sam and Jake? Before John could ask any of these things aloud, Carter stood up. You'll have more questions than answers tonight, Mr. Miller. All I can tell you now is that you're not alone in this. People will be watching, not just us, but others who may not have your best interests at heart. Protect your sons. You'll understand why soon enough. With that cryptic warning, Carter turned and walked out the door, leaving John sitting in stunned silence. The weight of the revelation pressed heavily on his chest. 18 years of believing he knew his family, only to discover that everything he thought was true was a lie. Upstairs, Sam and Jake continued their game, oblivious to the storm brewing outside and the one forming within their own household. John closed the folder, his hands trembling. Whatever secrets lay hidden in his past, one thing was certain: his quiet, predictable life was over. As the rain continued to pour outside, John made a silent vow. He would find out the truth no matter where it led him or how dangerous it might become. Because if there was one thing he knew for sure, it was this: his sons deserved answers, and he wouldn't rest until he gave them that. Little did he know, the journey ahead would take him farther than he could imagine, beyond Earth itself. The next few days felt like a blur for John Miller. He couldn't shake off the bombshell Agent Carter had dropped at his doorstep, or the folder filled with unsettling evidence. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those glowing symbols on Sam and Jake's skin, etched into his mind like a haunting memory. It was as if the world around him had shifted slightly out of focus, leaving him unsure of what was real anymore. At first, John tried to convince himself it was all some elaborate hoax. Maybe Carter was lying, maybe the photos were doctored, but deep down he knew better. There were too many coincidences, too many moments over the years that didn't add up. The faster-than-normal healing, the inexplicable brilliance, the way they sometimes seemed to communicate without words, it wasn't normal. And now, finally, there was an explanation staring him in the face, even if it terrified him. Desperate for answers, John decided to dig deeper. If Sarah had been involved in something secretive before they met, then perhaps her past held clues to the truth about their sons. He began by rummaging through old boxes stored in the attic. Dusty photo albums, faded letters, and forgotten mementos lay scattered across the floor as he searched for anything connected to Sarah's life before him. Among the clutter, he found something unexpected: Sarah's laptop. An outdated model. She claimed held nothing important but refused to throw away. For years, John had dismissed it as sentimental junk. Now curiosity burned inside him. What if this device contained secrets she'd kept hidden? With trembling hands, John powered it on. The screen flickered to life, prompting him for a password. After several failed attempts using birthdays and anniversaries, he remembered a phrase Sarah used to say often: "Always look beyond." Typing it in, he held his breath, and the laptop unlocked. Inside, he discovered files upon files labeled with cryptic names like Project Horizon, Subject Delta, and DNA sequencing. Logs, most of them were encrypted, inaccessible without proper authorization. Frustrated but determined, John reached out to an old friend named Mark, who ran a tech repair shop in town. Mark was a whiz with computers and owed John a favor from years ago when he fixed his busted truck engine. "John, what kind of trouble are you getting yourself into?" Mark asked teasingly as he examined the laptop. But when John explained the situation, leaving out the part about alien DNA, Mark's expression turned serious. "This looks heavy-duty encryption. Whoever made these files didn't want anyone snooping around." After hours of work, Mark managed to crack one of the files. Inside was a document detailing experiments conducted at a top-secret research facility where Sarah had worked. According to the report, scientists were attempting to integrate extraterrestrial genetic material into human embryos, The goal? 2. Create individuals with enhanced abilities, strength, intelligence, resilience, that could potentially protect Earth from future threats. John's stomach churned as he read further. One section mentioned successful trials resulting in 2 viable subjects. Below it was a grainy image of 2 newborn babies wrapped in blankets. Their faces were blurred, but the resemblance to Sam and Jake was unmistakable. "They're talking about my boys," John whispered, his voice shaking. "They created them." Mark glanced at him, concern etched on his face. "Are you sure about this, man? This is insane." "I wish I wasn't," John replied grimly. "But everything fits. The weird stuff they've always done, it makes sense now." Determined to learn more, John spent the following nights poring over every decrypted file. Each revelation chipped away at his understanding of reality. He learned that Sarah hadn't just been an employee. She was integral to the project. Her expertise in genetics and bioengineering made her indispensable. However, records indicated she grew uneasy as the experiments progressed, questioning the ethics of manipulating human life. Eventually, she requested a transfer, and shortly afterward met John. Was their meeting truly coincidental? Or had someone orchestrated it to ensure Sarah's departure wouldn't disrupt the project? These questions haunted John, gnawing at his conscience. Had Sarah sacrificed her career and possibly her safety for their family? Was she running from something bigger than either of them realized? As days passed, John struggled to act normal around Sam and Jake. They noticed his distracted demeanor during meals and his frequent absences upstairs. "Dad, is everything okay?" Sam asked one evening, concern evident in his tone. "You've been acting weird lately." "Yeah, you barely talk to us anymore," Jake chimed in, his voice tinged with hurt. Forcing a smile, John ruffled their hair. "It's nothing, boys. Just thinking about your mom, I guess." But the lie weighed heavily on him. How could he tell them the truth? That they weren't entirely human? That their existence was the result of a classified experiment? Would they hate him for keeping it from them? Worse still, would they resent Sarah for being part of it? One night, unable to sleep, John wandered into the backyard. The cool breeze helped clear his head, though not enough to ease the turmoil within. As he stared up at the starry sky, a strange sensation washed over him, a feeling of being watched. Turning around, he scanned the darkness but saw nothing unusual. Still, the unease lingered. Over the next week, odd occurrences became increasingly frequent. Lights flickered sporadically throughout the house, even when no appliances were running. Unexplained noises echoed through empty rooms late at night. Soft footsteps, faint whispers, the creak of floorboards under invisible weight. Once Sam woke up screaming, claiming he'd seen shadows moving outside his window. When John rushed to check, there was nothing there. "What did you see, buddy?" John asked gently, sitting beside Sam on his bed. "I don't know," Sam admitted, his voice trembling. "It was like shapes shifting in the dark, like they were watching me." Jake joined them, looking pale. "I heard it too," he confessed. "In my room." "Something's wrong, Dad. I can feel it." John wanted to dismiss their fears as imagination or stress, but after everything he'd uncovered, he couldn't ignore the possibility that something, or someone, was indeed watching them. Perhaps the same forces that created Sam and Jake were now monitoring their every move. Then came the dream. Vivid and surreal, it transported John aboard a massive spaceship unlike anything he'd ever seen. Sleek metallic walls stretched endlessly, lined with glowing panels emitting soft blue light. Strange beings moved through corridors, their forms humanoid yet distinctly alien. They communicated silently, their thoughts resonating directly in John's mind. "You are the Guardian," one of them said telepathically, its voice echoing with authority. "Your role is vital. Protect them." Before John could respond, the scene shifted. He stood on a battlefield littered with wreckage and debris. Above him loomed colossal ships exchanging fire, while below, chaos reigned as humans and aliens clashed violently. Amidst the destruction, Sam and Jake stood side by side, radiating energy so powerful it illuminated the entire landscape. When John awoke, sweat-soaked and gasping for air, he knew the dream wasn't random. It carried meaning, perhaps a warning. Whatever connection tied his sons to the stars was growing stronger, and sooner or later it would demand answers. Summoning courage, John decided to share the dream with Sam and Jake. At breakfast the next morning, he hesitated, unsure how to begin. Finally, he took a deep breath and spoke. "Boys, there's something I need to tell you, about yourselves, about why things have been different." Their expressions shifted from confusion to apprehension. "What is it, Dad?" Sam asked, cautiously. For the first time in 18 years, John told his sons the truth, not just about Sarah, but about the experiment, the glowing symbols, the dreams, and the strange events plaguing their home. He expected anger, denial, tears. Instead, Sam and Jake exchanged glances, almost as if they'd already suspected something. "We felt it too," Sam admitted quietly. "Like, something big is coming. And we're connected to it somehow," Jake added, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. John nodded, relief mingled with dread washing over him. They weren't alone in this. Together they would face whatever lay ahead, even if it meant confronting truths beyond comprehension. Little did they know the universe was about to reveal itself in ways none of them could have imagined. The days following John's confession to Sam and Jake were tense but strangely quieter. The strange occurrences around the house, flickering lights, eerie noises, shadows moving in the dark, seemed to pause as if holding their breath. For a brief moment, John allowed himself to hope that maybe the danger had passed, that whatever forces were watching them had decided to leave his family alone. But deep down, he knew better. The calm was only temporary. Something big was coming. It always was. Sam and Jake handled the revelation differently. Sam, ever the thinker, spent hours poring over books about astronomy, ancient civilizations, and anything remotely connected to extraterrestrial life. He scribbled notes furiously, trying to piece together fragments of information like a detective solving a mystery. Jake, on the other hand, preferred action. He practiced physical skills outdoors, climbing trees, running faster than anyone else, testing limits he didn't fully understand yet. Both boys seemed driven by an instinctive need to prepare, though neither could explain why. Meanwhile, John struggled with feelings of guilt and helplessness. As much as he wanted to protect his sons, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was woefully unprepared for what lay ahead. Whatever Sarah had gotten them into, it went far beyond his understanding. And while Sam and Jake appeared more resilient than ever, John couldn't ignore the gnawing fear that they might be walking straight into danger. One evening, as dusk painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, Agent Carter returned unexpectedly. His arrival sent a jolt of unease through John, who hadn't heard from him since that fateful night weeks ago. This time, Carter didn't bother with pleasantries. "We don't have much time," he said urgently after stepping inside. "They're coming." "Who's coming?" John demanded, his voice rising. "What are you talking about?" Carter hesitated, glancing at Sam and Jake, who stood nearby, listening intently. "The beings tied to your son's DNA, the ones responsible for the experiment, they're approaching Earth. Their ships will arrive within days." John felt the world tilt beneath his feet. "Why now? What do they want?" "They're refugees," Carter explained grimly. "Survivors fleeing a galactic war. Your son's genetic markers act as a beacon, signaling Earth as a potential safe haven. But there's another problem. Enemy fleets hunting them. If those enemies find Earth, humanity won't stand a chance." Sam stepped forward, his brow furrowed. "So we're bait? Is that what you're saying?" "No," Carter replied firmly. "You're much more than that. The abilities encoded in your DNA aren't just enhancements, they're defenses, designed to protect Earth from threats like this. But activating those abilities comes at a cost. You'll become targets too." Jake clenched his fists. Frustration, bubbling to the surface. Great. So basically, we're supposed to save the planet while dodging space invaders? No pressure or anything. Carter ignored the sarcasm, his tone softening slightly. I know this is overwhelming, but you're not alone. We've been preparing for this moment for years. Training programs exist specifically for individuals like you. If you agree to cooperate, we can teach you how to control your powers. John cut in sharply, his protective instincts flaring. Wait a minute. Training programs, powers, you expect my kids to fight aliens? It's not about fighting, Carter countered. It's about survival, for all of us. They're already being drawn into this whether you like it or not. Helping them understand their potential is the best way to ensure everyone stays alive. For a long moment, silence filled the room. Finally, Sam spoke up, his voice steady despite the weight of the situation. Dad, I think we should listen to him. If what he says is true, then ignoring it won't make it go away. We owe it to Mom, and to ourselves, to figure out why we're here. Jake nodded in agreement. Yeah, plus I kind of want to see what these powers are all about. Reluctantly, John agreed. Over the next few days, Carter arranged for the family to relocate temporarily to a secure facility hidden deep within the mountains. It was a sprawling compound equipped with state-of-the-art technology, designed to train individuals with extraordinary abilities. Scientists, military personnel, and researchers worked tirelessly behind closed doors, their sole focus on preparing humanity for contact with extraterrestrial life. Training began almost immediately. At first, it was disorienting. Sam and Jake underwent rigorous assessments to measure their physical and mental capabilities. They learned meditation techniques to sharpen their focus, combat drills to improve reflexes, and scientific lessons to grasp the mechanics of their powers. Slowly but surely, their latent abilities began to emerge. Sam discovered he could manipulate energy fields, creating barriers strong enough to deflect bullets. With practice, he learned to shape the energy into weapons, a shield, a blade, even projectiles capable of stunning opponents. Jake, meanwhile, excelled in telekinesis, lifting objects hundreds of times heavier than himself with mere thought. His speed and agility reached superhuman levels, allowing him to move faster than the eye could follow. Watching his sons transform before his eyes left John awestruck and terrified. Each new ability brought a mix of pride and dread. Pride because they were truly remarkable. Dread because the stakes kept rising higher. As the days turned into weeks, global tensions escalated. News outlets buzzed with reports of unidentified flying objects spotted near major cities. Governments scrambled to respond, launching futile attacks against the mysterious crafts hovering silently in the skies. Panic spread like wildfire, with millions fleeing urban centers in search of safety. Then, one fateful night, the sky above Willow Creek split open. It started with a low hum, barely audible at first. Then came a brilliant flash of light so intense it lit up the horizon. People poured out of their homes, staring upward in awe and terror as enormous star destroyers descended gracefully from the heavens. These weren't sleek, streamlined vessels, like those seen in movies. They were colossal behemoths, bristling with weapons and glowing with an otherworldly energy. Shadows moved across their surfaces, shifting and rippling like living organisms. The sight sent shockwaves through humanity. Some fell to their knees in prayer, believing Judgment Day had arrived. Others screamed in panic, convinced Earth was under attack. Chaos erupted worldwide as nations mobilized their armies, ready to defend themselves against the unknown threat. But for John, Sam, and Jake, the scene carried a different meaning. Standing together on a hilltop overlooking the Yard town, they watched as the massive ships positioned themselves in orbit, casting eerie shadows across the landscape. A sense of clarity washed over them, a realization that their purpose extended far beyond personal survival. "They're here," Sam whispered, his voice tinged with both wonder and apprehension. "And they're waiting," Jake added, his gaze fixed on the largest ship hovering directly above them. John placed a hand on each of their shoulders, grounding them amidst the surreal spectacle. "Whatever happens next, we face it together." You hear me? Together. Agent Carter joined them moments later, his expression grim yet resolute. This is it, he said. The moment we've prepared for. Now's the time to prove what you're capable of. Sam and Jake exchanged determined looks, their earlier fears replaced by resolve. They may not have chosen this path, but they would walk it nonetheless. After all, they weren't just ordinary teenagers anymore. They were guardians of Earth, beings forged from human love and alien ingenuity, destined to bridge two worlds teetering on the brink of destruction. As the first rays of dawn broke through the horizon, illuminating the star destroyers in golden light, humanity held its collective breath. The universe had finally revealed itself and nothing would ever be the same again. The arrival of the star destroyers marked a turning point in human history. For the first time, Earth stood face to face with beings from beyond the stars. Yet, instead of awe or curiosity, the initial reaction was fear, raw, primal, and overwhelming. Governments scrambled to respond, launching missiles and fighter jets toward the alien vessels. But their efforts proved futile. The ships remained untouched, surrounded by shimmering energy shields that deflected every attack. It became painfully clear, humanity's weapons were no match for this advanced technology. Amidst the chaos, John Miller, Sam, and Jake found themselves at the center of the storm. Agent Carter had briefed them extensively about what to expect next. These aliens aren't invaders, he explained during one of their final training sessions. They're refugees fleeing a galactic war. However, there are factions among them, and enemies hunting them, who may see Earth as a target. Your role is critical. You must act as intermediaries between humans and these beings. Though daunting, the responsibility weighed heavily on Sam and Jake. They'd spent weeks honing their abilities, learning to control powers they barely understood. Now those skills would be put to the ultimate test. As the world descended into panic, they prepared to step forward, not just as protectors of Earth, but as bridges between two vastly different civilizations. A world in turmoil. The days following the Star Destroyer's descent were chaotic. Cities erupted into riots as terrified citizens looted stores and fled urban centers. Military forces established blockades, attempting to maintain order while simultaneously preparing for potential combat. News outlets broadcast endless coverage of the event, showing footage of massive ships hovering ominously above landmarks like the Statue of Liberty, the Eiffel Tower, and the Great Wall of China. Conspiracy theories ran rampant, with some claiming the aliens were gods sent to judge humanity, while others believed it was all an elaborate hoax. For Sam and Jake, the situation felt surreal. Their small town of Willow Creek was relatively calm compared to major cities, but even here, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Neighbors whispered behind closed doors, speculating whether the boys were somehow connected to the mysterious events unfolding globally. John did his best to shield them from scrutiny, but rumors spread quickly in tight-knit communities. Despite the growing unrest, Sam and Jake focused on their mission. Each day brought new challenges as they practiced using their powers in increasingly complex scenarios. Sam mastered creating energy barriers large enough to shield entire buildings, while Jake refined his telekinetic abilities, lifting cars and redirecting debris with ease. Both brothers worked tirelessly, knowing failure wasn't an option. Agent Carter monitored their progress closely, providing guidance whenever needed. "You're not soldiers," he reminded them frequently. "Your strength lies in diplomacy, not destruction. Use your powers wisely." Still, doubts lingered. Were they truly ready for what lay ahead? Could they convince frightened humans and wary aliens to trust each other? The weight of these questions pressed heavily on their young shoulders. The enemy arrives. Just when humanity began grappling with the presence of the Star Destroyers, another threat emerged. Darker, sleeker ships appeared on the horizon, their designs jagged and menacing. These vessels belonged to the enemy fleet, the hunters pursuing the refugees. According to Carter, they sought to annihilate anyone associated with the experiment that created Sam and Jake, viewing it as a violation of galactic law. When the first shots were fired, the true scale of the conflict became apparent. The refugee ships retaliated fiercely, unleashing devastating beams of energy that tore through the enemy fleet. Explosions lit up the sky, shaking the ground below. Earth itself became a battleground, caught in the crossfire of a war it had no part in starting. As cities crumbled and skies burned, despair gripped humanity. Many saw the battle as confirmation of their worst fears. Earth was doomed. But amidst the destruction, Sam and Jake stepped forward, determined to make a difference. "We can't let them destroy our planet," Sam declared, his voice steady despite the turmoil around them. "If we don't do something, everyone dies." Jake nodded grimly. "Then let's show them what we're made of." Together they approached the heart of the battlefield, a sprawling plain where the largest Star Destroyer hovered protectively over a cluster of refugee ships. Below, enemy forces launched relentless assaults, trying to breach the defenders' shields. Civilians huddled in makeshift shelters praying for salvation. Summoning every ounce of courage, Sam raised his hands, channeling his energy into forming a massive barrier that stretched across the battlefield. The shield glowed brightly, absorbing incoming attacks and giving the refugees precious time to regroup. Meanwhile, Jake used his telekinesis to hurl debris at enemy ships, disabling several before they could fire again. Their actions turned the tide momentarily, buying humanity and the aliens a brief reprieve. But the cost was high. Exhaustion washed over Sam and Jake as they pushed their powers to the limit. Even so, they refused to give up, driven by a shared purpose: protecting the innocent. Once the immediate danger subsided, negotiations began. Representatives from both sides gathered aboard the central Star Destroyer, seeking common ground. Sam and Jake accompanied Agent Carter, serving as intermediaries between humans and aliens. Through telepathic communication facilitated by advanced translators, they conveyed messages of peace and cooperation. At first, skepticism ruled the discussions. Humans distrusted the aliens, blaming them for bringing destruction to Earth. The aliens in turn viewed humanity as primitive and volatile. Tensions flared repeatedly, threatening to derail the talks entirely. But Sam and Jake refused to back down. Drawing upon memories of Sarah's compassion and John's resilience, they appealed to both sides' shared desire for survival. "We're stronger together," Sam argued passionately. "If we work as one, we can defeat the real enemy, the ones hunting you." Slowly but surely progress was made. A fragile truce emerged, uniting humans and aliens against the greater threat looming beyond the stars. When the dust settled, Earth joined a coalition of planets marking humanity's entry into the galactic community. A father's pride. Back home in Willow Creek, John watched his sons with pride and sorrow. Though they'd saved millions, the journey had changed them forever. No longer were they just his boys. They were heroes, destined to explore the universe and safeguard its fragile balance. As Sam and Jake prepared to leave Earth aboard one of the Star Destroyers, John hugged them tightly, tears streaming down his face. "Be safe, my sons," he whispered. "You're more than I ever dreamed." With that, the sky parted once again, and the ships ascended into the cosmos, carrying with them the legacy of a humble mechanic's extraordinary family. The departure of Sam and Jake marked the beginning of a new chapter, not just for their family but for humanity itself. As the Star Destroyers ascended into the heavens, leaving Earth behind, John Miller stood on the hilltop overlooking Willow Creek, watching until the last glimmer of light disappeared from view. The silence that followed felt deafening yet strangely peaceful. For 18 years he had raised his sons as ordinary boys, unaware of the extraordinary destiny awaiting them. Now they were gone, bound for the stars to fulfill a purpose far greater than any of them could have imagined. But John wasn't alone in his grief or his pride. Around the world, people began piecing their lives back together after the chaos of the Galactic War. Cities once reduced to rubble were slowly rebuilt, scars of destruction giving way to symbols of resilience. The alliance forged between humans and aliens brought about unprecedented advancements in technology, medicine, and science. Humanity, once isolated and fearful, now found itself part of a vast interstellar community. And at the heart of it all were two young men from a small town who had bridged the gap between worlds. Life after departure. In the weeks following Sam and Jake's departure, life in Willow Creek returned to a semblance of normalcy. Yet, nothing felt truly normal anymore. Neighbors often stopped by to check on John, offering condolences or sharing stories of how the brothers' bravery had inspired them. Some even claimed to see signs of their influence everywhere. Children, playing hero games pretending to be Sam and Jake, murals painted on walls depicting their feats during the battle. Their names became synonymous with hope and unity. For John, however, moving forward was bittersweet. Every corner of the house reminded him of his sons, their laughter echoing through empty hallways, their footsteps imprinted on worn carpets. He spent hours poring over old photographs, reliving memories of birthdays, holidays, and quiet evenings spent together. Each image carried both joy and sorrow, a reminder of what he'd gained and lost. Agent Carter visited occasionally, bringing updates from beyond the stars. Through encrypted transmissions, he shared glimpses of Sam and Jake's journey aboard the Star Destroyer, Orion, one of the largest vessels in the refugee fleet. They were thriving, learning not only about their powers but also about the cultures, histories, and sciences of countless alien species. According to Carter, they were quickly earning respect among their peers, seen as natural leaders due to their unique blend of human empathy and extraterrestrial strength. They're doing, well, Carter assured John during one visit, better than anyone expected. That doesn't make it easier, John admitted softly, staring out the window. I miss them. Carter nodded sympathetically. I can't imagine how hard this must be for you. But remember, you gave them roots when they needed stability and wings when they needed freedom. That's more than most parents ever get to do. Though comforting, Carter's words couldn't fill the void left by Sam and Jake's absence. Still, John clung to the knowledge that his sons were alive, safe, and making a difference in ways he never dreamed possible. A new threat emerges. While Earth enjoyed a fragile peace, the galaxy remained far from tranquil. Enemy fleets continued hunting the refugees, determined to wipe out remnants of the experiment that created Sam and Jake. Intelligence reports indicated that these factions viewed Earth as a liability, a weak link in the coalition's defenses. If they couldn't conquer the planet outright, they aimed to destabilize it, sowing discord among its inhabitants. To counteract this threat, Sam and Jake played pivotal roles in strengthening Earth's position within the Galactic Alliance. Using their enhanced abilities, they helped develop cutting-edge defense systems capable of repelling future attacks. They also acted as ambassadors, fostering goodwill between humans and their newfound allies. Their presence reassured skeptical populations wary of trusting outsiders, proving that cooperation was possible despite centuries of mistrust. Yet danger lurked closer to home than anyone anticipated. Rogue human factions, fueled by fear and xenophobia, refused to accept the changes sweeping across society. Believing the aliens responsible for Earth's near destruction, they launched covert operations targeting key figures involved in the alliance, including Agent Carter and other government officials. When an assassination attempt nearly claimed Carter's life, it became clear that internal threats posed as much risk as external ones. Faced with mounting challenges, Sam and Jake made a bold decision. Leaving the safety of the Orion, they returned briefly to Earth to address the growing unrest. Standing before a global audience, they delivered a heartfelt message urging humanity to embrace unity rather than division. We didn't choose this path, Sam said, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. But we've seen what happens when fear drives us apart. We've fought side by side with beings who aren't so different from us. Together we've saved billions. Don't let hatred undo everything we've built. Jake stepped forward next, his tone firm yet compassionate. We're not asking you to forget the past. We're asking you to look toward the future, to see Earth not as a battleground but as a beacon of hope. Because if we stand together, there's nothing we can't overcome. Their speech resonated deeply, rallying support for the alliance. and quelling dissent among extremist groups. Though tensions persisted, humanity took significant strides toward healing wounds inflicted by paranoia and prejudice. A father's final gift. Back in Willow Creek, John received unexpected news. Sam and Jake would return permanently for a short while. Their mission required them to oversee Earth's integration into the Galactic Coalition, ensuring stability before departing again. Overjoyed, yet apprehensive, John prepared for their arrival, unsure how much time they'd have together. When, the familiar hum of a starship engine filled the air, John rushed outside, heart pounding. Descending from the sleek vessel were his sons, taller and more confident than ever. Behind them stood several alien escorts, their forms elegant yet alien. Despite their differences, they greeted John warmly, acknowledging his role in shaping the heroes standing beside them. Over the next few days, John soaked up every moment with Sam and Jake. They shared stories of their adventures among the stars, of breathtaking landscapes on distant planets, friendships forged with beings unlike anything on Earth, and lessons learned about courage, sacrifice, and belonging. Though proud of their achievements, John couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness knowing they'd soon leave again. On their final night together, John handed each of them a small wooden box engraved with Sarah's initials. Inside were keepsakes she'd treasured, a locket containing her favorite photograph, a handwritten letter expressing her hopes for their future, and a tiny vial of stardust collected during her research days. This was hers, John explained, his voice thick with emotion. She always believed in looking beyond. I think she'd want you to carry a piece of her with you wherever you go. Sam and Jake accepted the gift solemnly, touched by their father's thoughtfulness. Thank you, Dad, Sam said, clutching the box tightly. We'll make sure. Mom's legacy lives on, Jake added, and yours too. Everything we are is because of you. Tears blurred John's vision as he pulled them into a tight embrace. Just promise me one thing, he whispered. No matter where your journey takes you, don't forget where you came from. They promised, sealing the vow with a silent nod. As dawn broke the next morning, the brothers boarded the starship once more, waving goodbye to the man who had given them everything. Watching them disappear into the sky, John felt a sense of closure, not sadness, but gratitude. His sons weren't just his anymore. They belonged to the universe. A legacy written in stars. Years later, Earth flourished as a hub of interstellar diplomacy and innovation. Monuments dedicated to Sam and Jake stood in cities worldwide, commemorating their role in uniting humanity with the cosmos. Children grew up dreaming of exploring the stars, inspired by tales of two brothers who defied fear and prejudice to forge a brighter future. As for John, he lived out his days surrounded by memories of his extraordinary family. On clear nights, he gazed at the constellations, imagining his sons traveling among them, protecting the fragile balance of existence. Though separated by light years, their bond remained unbroken, a testament to love, sacrifice, and the enduring power of hope. In the end, Sam and Jake's legacy wasn't written in history books or carved into stone monuments. It was etched into the hearts of those they touched, a reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness and bravery can ripple across galaxies, leaving an indelible mark on the universe.